Hello, Cine-Files fans. We're getting together for some very sad news today. We heard about the passing of the great Burt Reynolds.
Yeah.
And
That's my little imitation of him.
I like it. A tribute, if you will.
Yeah, a tribute, yes. Very much.
And we are actually planning on doing something special for Mr. Reynolds. But we thought just today, because it just happened, we would re-release an old episode of ours, which is Boogie Nights, which we recorded with the great Michael Grant Terry as our guest.
Yes.
And it's a really fun episode. And this is really the resurgence of Burt Reynolds. And so we thought it would be a nice thing to kind of put it out today and to think about just sort of that moment that Burt Reynolds came back.
Yeah, it was a surprising thing because, I grew up with Burt Reynolds, as well as you did, Steve. I'm sure we grew up with Burt Reynolds in our lives and saw his progression from #1 movie star to doing these kind of forgettable comedies in the 80s and then getting kind of forgotten a bit, then ending up on TV doing Evening Shade and then disappearing again, kind of, and then popping up in something like Boogie Nights with this incredible role written for him by Paul Thomas Anderson and of course, all the controversy around that as well, where people thought he was going to win that Oscar, but then he shot his mouth off about how Oscars don't mean anything or it's not that big of a deal. And many people thought that affected the overall vote.
Badmouths the film on some level.
Yeah, he badmouthed the film. That's right. He badmouthed the film and what have you, and said it glorified porn or something like that. It was just like,
Well, and for me, I'm sure it was the same for you, is he was... When I was a kid, the biggest star there was.
Yeah.
And then he's the first person that I witnessed have a downfall.
Oh, yeah.
Where it just was like, and I'm starting high school or something, and this person who was an icon was a joke.
Yeah.
And that's such a strange, and of course now, being an old man, I've seen this happen over and over and over again, that in fact you don't get to stay at the top very long. Very few people do.
Right.
And to see him have that great comeback in this film is really special.
Yeah, it was. And this is, and the reason why is because of time heals everything, right? And I think he kind of came into his looks as an older man as well. I think that transition from hot-ass dude in his 20s and 30s into the older 40s with the curled hair and the mustache and everything, it felt like you were watching your dad, whereas as opposed to watching that cool dude who at any moment could get on a motorcycle and like tear ass down the street. Now you're looking at your dad with the members only jacket walking into the club thinking he's the cool guy at the end of the bar when he really is out of place. And it was just a weird transition how quickly that happened too.
And then you get to Boogie Nights and he's the cool guy again.
He's the cool guy again, right?
And the gravitas he brings to that role and the warmth and the intelligence he brings to this, because
the patience as an actor. Yeah.
I think without him, that movie is filled with phenomenal performances. But he's the linchpin in a lot of ways.
He's the anchor of that movie.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
It's not Wahlberg, it's him.
Yeah. And so, we're talking about what film to do.
Yeah.
And we decided to do something that the Cine-Files has never done, which is we are going to release this episode and we would like to leave it up to you.
Yeah.
So we have narrowed it down to 2 films. And those films are The Longest Yard and Deliverance.
Yeah.
2 incredibly different movies, 2 incredibly different sides of Burt Reynolds. And what we're going to do is we're going to put a poll up on Twitter and on Facebook, and we'll both release it through my Twitter address, SR Morris, and at The Roca Says, and it'll be on our Facebook page. Yeah. And you get to pick between Longest Yard and Deliverance.
Yeah, and we'll compile them, and then we'll have an authentic winner.
Yes.
And then we'll we'll do a Cine-Files on that. On the winner,
and we'll hopefully record this early next week.
Yeah,
post it at the end of next week,
and maybe we'll get Lonnie Anderson to come on the show.
Man, in 1979, watching WKRP in Cincinnati, and I was
nothing says you're the hottest guy in the world that you marry Lonnie Anderson. She was the hottest thing back then,
particularly when I was 12 years old. That was there was nothing better than that.
What was her name on the show again? Do you remember? I don't either. I keep thinking Hot Lips from MASH, but that was not her name. No.
No, I remember Les Nessman, and I remember Dr. Johnny Fever.
Yes, Herb Tarlick.
I remember a lot of names, but I don't remember Lonnie Anderson's name.
Well, we've digressed.
We have, and I think we should bring it back to actually a movie that takes place at exactly the same era as WKRP in Cincinnati, but has an entirely different tone, and that is the fantastic Paul Thomas Anderson's second film, Boogie Nights, with our special guest on the Cine-Files, Michael Grant Terry.
I am a star. I'm a star, I'm a star, I'm a star. I am a big, bright, shining star.
Hello and welcome once again to the Cine-Files, where each week we enter the world of a great film. We explore its themes, its history, the filmmaking, and the influence it has on us today. My name is Steve Morris. I'm a filmmaker and directing instructor in Los Angeles, California.
Hey guys, it's John Roca. I am a voiceover artist and host of numerous shows here around town in Los Angeles, and occasionally an actor.
I don't know why you always put the occasionally on
Because
that.
I don't do as much of that as I did before, so I do more voiceover and more hosting than I did in the
I don't know. I
commercial.
kind of feel like once an actor, always an actor. And speaking of actors, we're very lucky to have as our guest Michael Grant Terry, who is a little more than occasionally an actor, and in fact, just finished up a very long stint on Bones. How long were you on that show?
9 years.
9 years on Bones.
Yes.
You also might have seen him, by the way, he plays Wendell on Bones. You also might have seen him on Criminal Minds. And if you happen to watch my film, The Assistants, he plays Carl on it.
Hell yeah, that's where we met.
Yep. Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, what's it like finishing up a show after 9 years?
It's crazy. I mean, it's one of those shows that you didn't think it would ever come to an end, because we kept getting renewed season after season after season. We were the little train that could. But it's wonderful. I'm glad that we were able to end it on a note that the fans wanted it to end. And we were able to wrap it up in a good way.
And does your life have like just a weird empty space in it now?
You know, it feels good, actually. It feels like renewing and relieving, and relieving in a good way. Like I'm excited to enter the next chapter.
And what is the next chapter?
Who knows? Drinking, smoking. No, the next chapter is, well, right now I shot an Amazon pilot that hopefully will get picked up in March, called The Legend of Master Legend. But honestly, it's exploring different aspects of myself as an actor who's been on the show for 9 years, and kind of breaking out of that shell and finding new things.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. And speaking of new things, this movie is, I don't know if it's a new thing exactly, but it's the first time with a new director. We finally get into Paul Thomas Anderson.
Yes.
It's an amazing, I think one of the most unique directors of the last 20 years. And we have, I think, the movie where he really hit it, which is Boogie Nights.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's 1997, and it's a movie about. It's one of those movies where if you read what this movie was about, I think a lot of people would say, I don't know if I'm interested in that,
Right.
And yet almost everybody was interested in that.
Yeah, I remember when it came out, it was such a big deal. People were like protesting, trying to make it an X-rated film. You know, there was a whole kind of things going on in the 90s. Because this is right at the nadir, I would say, of the independent film movement that had come on through Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez. And, well, of course, Sex, Lies, and Videotape kind of really kicked it off. And so when this happened, it was like one of the best ones to come out during that time period.
And interesting, it's before Darren Aronofsky as well.
Right.
Because I had to
yeah.
look back, and I was like, is this before Pi, Requiem for a Dream? Because there's a lot of stuff I think that Aronofsky uses from this.
Absolutely.
And I was like, wait a minute, this is before that even. I had kind of forgotten that.
Well, he comes so fully formed in this movie as a director. It's just, he lays it right off from the opening shot, lays it out. So let me ask you, Mike, how did you first come to this film?
Man, I was trying to think about that, and I think I came to it getting ready to go to film school, getting ready to go to Emerson. I had just found this film. It's like maybe my junior year in high school, and I became obsessed with it. And this is one of the movies that made me want to go to film school.
Wow. What about you?
I saw it like in the theaters when it came out. I probably went with a couple of friends to go see it at the time, probably down in Tallahassee in Florida State, and enjoyed it there. And I remember being just blown away by it because of the subject material and the way they were able to make you care about these characters in a way that you hadn't seen before. And it's a cult status type film. Like people, like I remember reading an oral history on Grantland.
Grantland.
Yeah, the oral history on this is phenomenal.
So good.
Oh, wow.
The amount of people that they got.
It's great. It's all the quotes from everybody just put in order of everyone who's working on the film.
The producers, most of the actors, and the screenwriters, the
PAs,
casting, PAs, all the people involved, and how many people, and Philip Seymour Hoffman, like what it was like to have him coming on at this stage in his career, like so much in that. So as I've gotten older, there's an appreciation for this film that wasn't there when I initially saw it.
Yeah.
And what is that? Where do people, if they want to find that?
It's Grantland. Just type in Boogie Nights and oral history of Boogie Nights and oral history of Boogie Nights on Grantland.
Yeah.
I wish I'd taken a look at that
Grantland.com.
before.
Yeah.
It's long.
The website went down, like it's defunct, but you can still see the old articles.
Right.
Gotcha.
So they don't put any new ones up because Bill Simmons started that off of ESPN, and he has The Ringer now. But Grantland was the one that he started, and they had great pop culture stuff, and this was one of the best things they ever did.
So one thing I want to say before we really dig into Boogie Nights, and this just feels a little bit weird for me because we've done lots of movies where we've talked in depth about violence. We talked about how does Martin Scorsese approach violence versus Quentin Tarantino or Francis Ford Coppola or the Coen brothers. And I had no awkwardness whatsoever discussing people getting shot and stabbed and killed. And yet I feel like maybe I do have some awkwardness about people having sex and nudity and pornography. And that's, first of all, that is really fucked up. Just that from the beginning. But I do feel like I need to give out a little bit of a warning. I mean, pretty much, I think everyone who's this far would get it. But like, we're going to talk about sex and pornography and prostitution and these issues that some people do get pretty uncomfortable with. Yeah. And like I said, I'm more uncomfortable talking about sex than I am talking about violence. And that's kind of a strange thing.
The one thing about this film, though, I think you hit on it, John, a second ago, is the characters and how defined everybody is. For me, kind of erases that this movie is about porn a little bit, and erases that uncomfortability because the characters are so in depth and so defined and such real people. It's interesting for me because of that, and I kind of forget about the porn aspect, which we spoke about a little bit.
Yeah, you said I don't think about this movie as a movie about porn.
I think about it as a movie about family.
Oh, interesting.
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I don't see it that way. I see it as a film about a guy pursuing his dreams and what happens when he gets too full of himself and how he has to come back down and then appreciates the journey and appreciates what he achieved. But the family thing, absolutely. So it's a perspective of what you take out of it.
Well, there's no question to me that it is that both of what you said is true.
I agree. I think both of those are true.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is a classic rock star movie of, guy comes from nowhere, gets too big for his britches, has a horrible crash, and then has to, return back to his roots.
Yeah.
It's that story, but it's also the story about family. And I hate to break it to you, it's also a story about porn.
Yes.
And what's funny, I listened
very large
to the
cock.
and a very large cock.
I'm ready to shoot now, Jack. It's my big cock.
I need to take a moment. It's also, it's funny. It's like if you listen, I listened to the commentary track. One of the things, first of all, one of the things I love, the very first thing that PTA, I think we could refer to him as that, says on the commentary track is, I'm really happy to be doing a commentary track because half of what I learned about making movies, I learned from stealing from other people's commentary tracks.
Yes.
Wow.
And that's how I feel too. Yeah. Like, this is the place, not that everything that's on a commentary track is true, but you get to hear the thought process of the director.
Or usable.
Yeah.
Especially a Schwarzenegger commentary track. Which are
those have their own special charms.
I know what I'm doing tonight. That sounds great.
But the other thing about the way he talks about this film is he is fascinated about porn and the porn world. PTA, he grew up in the Valley, so he saw a lot of these people, as you do if you live here, going to the store and going to the, the restaurant, and he was aware of that. But the way that he is fascinated about it is completely non-judgmental. There's and that's what's true of the movie as well, is that he knows a lot about the history of pornography, and there's a lot that's in this film that comes from real events, particularly the life of John Holmes, but also all sorts of articles and things and stories he's read, and he watched a lot of porn in order to make this film, but there's never anything dirty about his feelings about it.
There's no judgment of it either. I don't think, which I think is what's so beautiful about it, is that this really is a movie about life, and in that life, it happens to be porn. My occupation as an actor, their occupations is porn, and I think that he highlights that.
Please, they are actors.
Excuse me, especially Buck.
He's
an actor. Yeah, but I think that I love that he's fascinated of this as a child. And that this is the culmination of, he made the Dirk Diggler story in high school, I think. Right.
Yeah. So what you're talking about, it's based on a short film documentary that he made in high school, which, talk about precocious, man. Yeah. Not only was he making films as a kid, but he went, I'm going to make a mockumentary about pornography in high school. And about a bisexual porno star, which didn't make it into this movie completely. But it was pretty out there for that time period, I think, to have gone that.
The 80s.
Yeah, right? 80s.
He said 88.
Yeah, 88. Wow. Okay, wow, yeah.
That's a crazy thing. And if you listen to him, he is so calm. I would say calm in his arrogance, or maybe confidence, is that he would just walk up to people and say, I want to work with you. You know, that and I'm going to go make movies. And there was never a sense of, oh, maybe I can't do this. I mean, he's a kid out of nowhere, and he just said, yeah, I'm going to do this. And strangely enough, he could.
And he looked like a child too. Apparently, everyone kept saying, who's this 16-year-old pitching me this movie about porn? What the fuck? You know.
Well, it's amazing to me. His requirements for doing the film were because he had made Hard Eight and had a lot of which by the way I've never seen.
It's a good film.
I have, but I don't remember it very well.
I would put it akin to Blood Simple. It is that kind of, you see what's coming,
right?
And it's a well written, taut film, but you see what's coming next, how he's going to expand as an artist.
But he lost a lot of power on that movie, and didn't have a final cut, and I think it really pissed him off, right? From what I've read.
No, that's and what he says when he went into what is it? New Line? Is that who did this?
Yes.
I think it's New Line.
Yeah.
When he went into meetings with them, he said it's going to be 3 hours long.
Yeah.
It's going to be NC-17.
Right.
And that's it because of experience with Hard Eight. And they finally came back to him and said, look, you can have one of those. Either it's R-rated and then it could be 3 hours, or you can have NC-17, but then it's got to be shorter. And he finally goes, okay, I guess I'll make it R-rated. And it ended up coming in about 240. So he didn't quite go to 3 hours. But just the arrogance of that, or the confidence, I don't know which one it is.
I think some people are just built that way. Some people are just built without that extra thing that goes, no, you shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen those people, and they're marvelous to watch in action because you're like, I don't understand this. How can you just do what no one else can do in this moment, or is stopped by this thing in their head that goes, no, this isn't how things are done. You can't actually do that.
Yeah.
But some people are built without that filter between them.
He's also surrounds himself with other people that are like that. Like his editor, I don't think had edited a single movie before this in its entirety. Yeah. This is his first full movie. His composer, I believe, also this is one of his first movies.
Really?
Who is actually Sean Penn's brother.
Right.
His composer of this.
Oh, wow.
The composer of this, who plays the engineer.
He plays the engineer.
Yeah. But I think surrounding yourself with other people with that confidence or arrogance, I think helped make this movie. Because it's not just him. I remember when I was in film school, I was like, Paul Thomas Anderson, man, only he can do everything himself. No one else is like him. But surrounding yourself with these other people, I think that have that same confidence and that same drive is what created this movie.
Well, and he has an eye for people, and this is one of the great ensemble casts of all time. Yes. And he has an eye for people. Like he sees John C. Reilly in a couple things and says, not only do I want to work with that guy for the rest of my life, but I want him to be my best friend. Mm-hmm. And apparently that's kind of what happens. And John C. Reilly is so peculiar as an actor and so amazing and in all sorts of movies, but obviously in this one you're watching him going, what is he doing? I've never seen an actor do things like what he does.
And so not a porn star either. Like when you look at him, I'm like, maybe an 80s porn star, I guess, but still he doesn't fit that mold exactly.
Well, I gotta say, and in this, I don't know how to bring it up exactly, but I have actually seen porn.
Okay.
And
what?
Yes, I have.
Oh my gosh.
And I have seen some porn from this particular era.
Yes.
When I was coming into a certain time in my life when I wanted to see pornography. It was in the early 80s. Sure. So it's pretty close to what this time is.
You're talking Kay Parker, Nina Hartley.
You're talking Long John. You're talking with these names.
John Holmes. You're talking.
I saw all of them.
All these, yeah.
And
Xavier Hollander. Yeah, you're talking about all these people.
Yeah, and you know what? They weren't necessarily the
John
best
Holmes is not
guys.
Really the best looking person.
I think actually John C. Reilly is an excellent.
You're right. Actually, I take that back. I take that back.
I'm gonna walk that back.
He's an excellent representation of film porn, not VHS porn. What they get into.
Right.
Well, yeah. Yes. Now I'm like running through porn actors in my head. So one of the things we should talk about it before, and then I want to really dig into just the movie as a whole, is that because I feel like we need to talk about porn a little bit, which is that porn has always led the technological revolution.
Yes.
And that when photography first gets invented, one of the first things they take pictures of is naked women. Mm-hmm. When film first gets invented, one of the first things people want to see moving are naked people. And that at this moment, what drives because we're right at this very strange moment in history in the mid-70s where porn moved into popular culture. It used to be before this point that there were stag films.
Yeah.
And a stag film was something that was, men got and they kept to themselves and it was, and people had like blindfolds over their eyes. And there was this very strange thing. And then there's this moment in the early 70s with Deep Throat and with the rise of Playboy and Behind the Green Door and the Playboy clubs and all these things that went. It's cool and elegant for sophisticated people to be into pornography. And suddenly everybody went to see porn movies. And this was before VHS. It was the only way to see it was in a movie theater. And what had before been this secret thing that nobody talked about became this thing that was popular and part of pop culture. And that's the moment that we joined the film, which is such an interesting moment of time. It's also at the end of the sexual revolution that begins in the 60s with female empowerment. There are all these movements happening, and also the rise in certain kinds of drug culture that led to this moment in the late 70s in the disco era that is like the peak, and that's where we join the film.
What's great about the film is that it captures this moment in time that really was brief. It was not like this extensive 3 decades of making these kinds of things. It was a few years, and it hit its peak, and then it shot downward so quickly with the advent of VCRs and the video camera, the camera. To do it that quick, the quality went right out the window. And I think that's why the film works so well for me, is it's more than just about porn, right? It's about the idea of technology, the advent, everything changes, right? The idea of tastes, differing tastes, going from one decade to the other, you all of a sudden become irrelevant. We talked about this in Singing in the Rain. The idea of going from silent to speaking films, talking films. People lost their careers, and the same thing happened with porn. Like, that's the thing. It's basically the film. The film is about the film industry, basically, and that's what I love about it.
I haven't researched this, but I believe that this is the first ever comparison between Singing in the Rain and Boogie Nights. And yet, I think you're 100%.
What's also great is that that structure that happens is what forms the structure of the film.
Yeah,
exactly.
You know, which is so fantastic is he doesn't have to write this structure of this film. The 80s hit, the movie changes completely. You know, whereas that small period of time at the end of the 70s, it's wonderful and it's grand and it's where the film starts.
Yeah.
Let's get into where the film starts. Okay. First of all, it starts with a remarkable shot. And opening shots is really important in a film because I don't know. There's this experience. I had a theater teacher who once said that it's one of the most important moments in a play is the first genuine laugh from the audience. Because when you go in to see a play, the first thing you feel is a little nervous. It's like, how's this going to be? Am I going to like this? And that when you have that first genuine, real laugh in a play, you go, okay, we're going to be all right. The opening shot of a movie is a very similar thing. Is that's what tells you whether or not you can be confident in the filmmaker. And this opening shot makes you go, oh yeah, we're in for something, because it is a big sweeping tracking shot that starts in this weird angle, floats down over a marquee that says Boogie Nights, moves inside of a club, and we see all of these characters moving around, and we get introduced to half the characters in our film.
Right.
You know, we meet Burt Reynolds,
John C.
Reilly, Julianne Moore, Rollergirl, Heather Graham,
Luis Guzman,
who I love. Luis Guzman.
He's amazing.
And we get to see Mark Wahlberg playing Eddie Adams when we start, who's working at a dishwasher at this club, and we get introduced to this fabulous, exciting world of the late 70s. Yeah.
So do you know how that shot was done?
No, tell me.
It's a crane shot. I mean, it's a crane shot with a Steadicam operator on it. That's what I figured. And then he steps off of it, and actually one of the ADs on Bones was a PA on the show in Boogie Nights. He's actually in one of the Dirk Diggler, Brock Landers movies. He gets a bottle smashed over his head. His name is Jocko. Hello, Jocko, if you're listening. And he told me that they had ADs on either side of the Steadicam up slapping people's legs with a ruler to move them out of the way. So they would keep dancing and not turn to look at the camera, but know that when their legs were slapped, they would have to move to the side so the Steadicam could come through.
These are the smart things that people don't know you have to do to make this stuff work.
Yeah.
And it's a great shot of introducing our characters. And I'm trying to figure out how to do this, but maybe as we go along, as they have great scenes, I want to take one character at a time and talk about it. Let's talk about Burt Reynolds.
Okay.
He's so great in this movie.
And he hated the movie.
Yeah.
He's such an idiot.
Yeah.
Such an idiot. He blew the Oscar.
Because he was so angry about it.
Because he was shit talking the film.
Yeah.
He blew the Oscar, and he deserved it because this is the best he's been since his heyday in the 70s. Yeah. This was the best he's ever done. And you remember why he was such a star when you watch this film.
But so this goes back to the family for me about the movie. He's like the father figure.
He's dad. Absolutely.
He's dad, and he is so kind and so genuine and so
strong.
And, I mean, like immediately from the first moment you see him sitting at that table, commanding that table.
Yeah.
And he has that perfect salt and pepper hair. Yeah. That is just a perfectly cropped facial hair.
Perfect outfit. He wears a scarf later. You know, it's like,
he's just so put together and solid. And it's fun. What we have to remember is that Burt Reynolds, in his time, is the biggest star in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's the biggest star in the world for 3 or 4 or 5 years.
Yep.
And what's always interesting, with very few exceptions, nobody stays the biggest star in the world for very long. You know, it's usually a very brief moment at the top, and then your movies start to get silly, and then people start to reject you, and maybe people are talking more about your personal life than they're talking about your life, and then you can't get work, and you go into Hollywood jail. And Burt Reynolds had certainly gone into Hollywood jail, and when he comes back in this film, it's like welcoming back this old friend.
It's interesting too. You trust him.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean? Like I like, it's not, that character could have been so sleazy and slimy, and you would have been like, "Who's this guy?" Going up to Eddie and asking and saying, "I have a feeling there's something magical in those pants." You know, whatever he says to him.
I got a feeling beneath those jeans is something wonderful just waiting to get out.
And
that is an incredibly creepy line.
It's a very creepy line, but he says it, and you're like, "Oh, that's nice."
Yeah.
Well, and this is the thing, and you said this before, and I think that's so key. There is no judgment in this movie.
Right.
These are perfectly good people who are trying to do a perfectly reasonable job. You know, there's no sense of, "Ooh, what they're doing is kind of gross."
Right.
There are moments where it becomes gross.
Right.
But
it's not from us. There's no judgment from us.
Right.
The judgment exists in the film from outside their world. You know what Julianne Moore deals with her husband, or with her
Yes.
with her child. There's
Right, there's
what Don
other
Cheadle
people
deals
judging
with.
them.
Right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
All the judgment is outside them in the film, but the way he portrayed Paul Thomas Anderson shoots them and does these scenes. There's no judgment from the audience in a
And
negative
you don't
way.
side with those outside people.
No, exactly.
You hate
That's what I mean.
they're horrible.
You
That's
hate
what I mean.
Buck's boss in his
Yes.
stereo store.
Yep.
You hate Dirk's mom. Oh God.
Yes.
I mean, like, you hate these people.
The great Joanna Gleason.
There you go.
Nailed it.
There you go.
I don't need to look at anything.
Yeah, you
up.
don't need any IMDb.
It's always in here.
So after we have that interaction, we find out that Mark Wahlberg's character, Eddie Adams, might have something special in his pants.
Yeah.
We go back to see him at his home, and the first thing we see, and I just have to talk about it, is this long panning shot around his bedroom.
Yeah.
And that panning shot is amazing.
So good.
Because it is Bruce Lee, and it is
Race cars.
Race cars.
Which Al Pacino movie is it? It's
Is it Scarface or
It was Serpico.
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 Yeah, Serpico.
Yeah, and it's like, yes, I know every single thing that's in the room. He does little martial arts moves.
Karate.
Yeah, karate. And then we go out and meet his lovely mother, Joanna Gleason.
Right.
And she is horrible. It is so painful to watch.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
I don't know. I'll do something.
You can't do anything. You're a loser. You'll always be a loser. You couldn't even finish high school because you were so stupid, so what are you gonna do?
I'll do something. I'll do it. You know what? I'll go somewhere and I'll do something. Maybe I'll run away where you can never find me.
Go ahead. Fuck that little girl. Oh, what do you think you're doing?
I'm getting my stuff.
You think that's your stuff? That's not your stuff. You didn't pay for it. That is not your stuff because you didn't pay for it, stupid. None of this is yours. This. You leave here. You leave with what you've got. Nothing.
And what's funny too, and this is one of the things that's amazing about this movie, I like smart people. I've talked about it in the podcast before. I love to see intelligence in films. I love people who can make the great speech, who can use wonderful words, hear great dialogue. These are not smart people.
It's incredibly portrayed in the. We're not there yet, but the fight when they. When you're stupid, you're so stupid, and I'm not. I'm great.
You don't know what I can do. You don't know what I can do, what I'm going to do, what I'm going to be. You don't know I'm good. I have good things that you don't know about.
No.
And I'm going to be something I am. Don't you fucking tell me I'm not.
Anything.
Don't like me, and you don't talk to me. No.
No, that dialogue. I don't know if it's written, but it's so fantastically dumb. Do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make any sense. If you saw it on page, I'm not. I'm going to be something. I'm going to be someone. You just wait and see. I'm not stupid. You are so stupid. Like, it's
And it's so they perfectly emphasize the wrong syllable in the word.
Yes.
They perfectly can't find the right word to say.
Right.
They stumble in just the right way.
Exactly.
And you could tell that he doesn't have a plan.
Right.
You know, like they just doesn't. And so let's talk about him. Let's talk about Mark Wahlberg.
So, I mean, coming off of this is coming off Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. Coming off other people, because I remember this distinctly. This is my mid-20s. I remember people making fun of the fact that they cast him as the lead, that he wasn't going to be able to do it. Nobody thought he'd have a real shot at it, and he blew people's minds with what I still consider this the best thing he's ever done.
I agree.
And just pure as an actor. You're watching him completely believable through the whole film because he's still discovering how to be an actor himself, and you see that purity in all the scenes. And Paul Thomas Anderson does a great job of finding those right takes, and the editor as well, of finding the right takes of him in purity. You just enjoy him all the way through.
And he's believable in a very unique way.
Yes.
It's that normally with young actors or inexperienced actors, they're going to usually make a down the middle choice. You know what I mean? They're going to make a straight
Yeah.
ahead.
Good point.
I'm going to say what I'm going to say. And he doesn't do that. And the other thing that young actors, and particularly actors that want to be movie stars, and I would guess people who come off of being musicians in other places where they're rock stars and things like that, they don't want to look bad. You know, and there's he has no problem looking bad or looking foolish or looking dumb throughout this film.
It's like earnest almost. He's
Yeah.
very earnest, and he believes everything he says.
Yeah.
Which that's so simple to say that, but I truly believe that he just wants to do well.
Yeah.
And then maybe that's Mark Wahlberg, or maybe that's
what-
Eddie.
that's what I mean. Yeah, he does a great job.
He wants to succeed, and much like his character, he wants to become a movie star.
Yeah.
Right.
You know.
And
It's
doesn't
wheels within
see-
wheels type stuff.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
And of course doesn't see that maybe this isn't the best pathway, but clearly he has this potential
yeah.
in his pants.
Yes.
And this is one of the interesting thing I felt watching it this time is that he does a great job. PTA does a great job of making you want to see what's in his pants. You
Yeah.
want to see the penis fairly early in the film because of the way everyone's talking about it. Now, I'm a heterosexual man, and that's not my normal thing that I want to take a look at, but the film makes you want to. It's just like if you're carrying around a briefcase and everyone goes, oh, we got to get what's in that briefcase, I'm going to want to see what's in the briefcase.
Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
Like
Pulp
Pulp
Fiction.
Fiction. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And of course, they withhold it naturally. And so he has this big fight with his mom. He says, I'm going to be special. I'm going to be important. I know I am.
Right.
And then he goes back to the club and sees Jack and kind of goes, I'm in. And Jack invites him back to his house. And then we get to meet, we've already met her, but let's talk about Heather Graham and Rollergirl.
You know, I have to comment on this. Speaking of his giant cock, the scene when Heather Graham.
speaking of it.
The scene when Heather Graham, when he gives a test, when Burt sends her in the bathroom to unzip his pants, there is a sound moment when you just hear go. When she goes down, and it's like, oh my gosh, like her eyes, and then you hear this sound, and you're like, that is the best like transition of. You're like, oh, I know, that's crazy.
Well, and this is part of this thing that I'm saying, where he's making us want to see it,
yeah.
because even just a little change in facial expression from her,
Yes.
as she sees it,
Exactly.
is like something important here.
Yeah.
And then we come back to the house, we have more conversation.
What do you think of Rollergirl?
She's great.
Yeah. Would you like to do it?
Have sex.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to. She's really foxy.
No, I bet your ass she is.
You're officially out of limes, Jack.
Well, I'll pick up some for you tomorrow, son. Come here, darling. I want you to go over there and sit on the couch with Eddie.
Here we go. Are we gonna fuck?
Oh, yes.
Are we gonna fuck? Are we gonna do it? Are we gonna do it right now? You know?
Yeah. Burt Reynolds says yes, and Rollergirl takes off his clothes, and we have this sex scene. And what they do is they immediately cut to Burt Reynolds and have this slow push in, and the expression on his face is so. It is amazing acting.
Yeah.
Because it's sort of neutral, and but you could see the little gleam in his eye of like,
I know what I have here.
I have
Yes.
something
Yeah,
special.
yeah, I have
Yes.
something special here.
So great.
Yeah.
I'm sure a coach gets those faces too
Yeah,
when they see an
exactly.
athlete.
Exactly.
I'm not going to give it away. I don't want
Yeah.
him to know what I
Right.
have here because he's sitting right there doing his
Right.
thing. But I know I got something special.
You got something special. Yeah, it's a remarkable scene.
Heather's fantastic. I mean, obviously this film made her.
Oh, yeah.
And she went and did Austin Powers, and she occasionally pops up and stuff, and you love her, and and she does terrible movies, but then she'll be like in The Hangover and stuff. She will always have goodwill with me because of what she does in this film. It is for much people, it's a difficult role to play, to make her innocent, and then when the transition happens with her later in the character, she's so powerful when her dreams are betrayed, when her innocence is lost, fully lost.
Yeah.
It is so devastating
It's
to
so
watch.
devastating to watch her in the classroom. When
Yes.
When
Yes.
that guy
Exactly.
is doing the I love this cock face. Or
Right.
whatever. I don't know how else you would explain that on a podcast. Without,
The blowjob.
The blowjob
Yeah, the
face,
blowjob,
yes.
yeah.
And the teacher even in that. Honey, sweetie, you okay?
Yeah.
Sweetie, you okay? Every one of these small characters in this movie it's fully formed to me.
Oh, yeah.
You completely get them. And just seeing her face skating out of there and knowing that she's never returning to that education, that real technical world,
Right.
is devastating.
Well, and she's a kid. She's completely fully formed with very few lines.
Yeah.
She says very little. She's a constant presence throughout this film. There's this unbelievably bizarre choice that she never takes roller skates off.
Yeah.
Her only name is Rollergirl. I mean,
Right.
maybe you hear her real name at some point. I don't know.
That guy says it to her in the limo later.
Oh,
he
yeah,
says
that's
you
right.
don't remember he says her name.
'Cause
And
he
she's
remembers
like,
her
that's
from high
not me.
school and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, very hard to go past her surface, know, and that makes her kind of mysterious and fascinating. And she seems, and this is the thing that PTA says in the commentary track, is he met these girls that are in the porn industry that he called "I'm okay girls," which is, how you doing? Oh, I'm okay. And they would never share anything deeper. And he always went, man, I think there's something scary in there that we don't get to. And that's what he wanted to do with Rollergirl, is that it's this I'm okay girl, I'm okay, everything's okay, everything's okay, everything's okay, and then it's not okay.
Yeah, I know someone like that. Yeah, and that's just how it is. They like constantly, no, everything's fine. It's all fine. It's fine. I can handle it. It's fine. They put on the smiley face and they act a certain way, but underneath there's an incredible wealth of pain and that they cannot access, because if they access it, they're going to shut down completely. And some people know that about themselves. You know what I'm saying? And I think you saw that with her in the high school scene, because what she's doing in her mind, and we watch it, we know what porn is, but what she's doing when she's doing it is an innocent way of being loved by people for who she is, for something she can give. She's not being judged in this world. She's not being judged and found deficient.
No.
And so when she goes to high school, that's where she finds deficiency.
Right.
When she meets that jerk off in the limo later on, that's where she finds deficiency. Judgment. She wants to be loved and accepted. That's it. And that whenever she's not, you can see the devastation, especially in the limo scene.
Oh, yeah. Well, and this goes back to what you said about this is a family, is that we've met the patriarch.
Yeah.
We've met a sister. You
Yeah.
know,
And now Julianne Moore.
and we're going to meet Julianne Moore, whose mom.
Yeah.
She's the mother in the family.
Yeah.
And in a film of off the charts great performances, hers might be the most amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, her and Phil Seymour Hoffman. I have to say.
Well, that's
I mean,
something
we'll
too.
get to that too. But I mean, the journey that she goes on with both drugs and with taking on that role of being a mother and not having her actual biological child in the picture anymore. It's fantastic. I mean,
Well, and it is frail and strong and unpredictable and emotional and comforting and all over the place, and sexy. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, it's all over the place.
and real and believable. I mean, I think
Yeah.
that like the reason why she ended up doing the first porn scene with Mark Wahlberg was, I think, because she was the one who could act the worst.
Right.
Like Paul Thomas Anderson said, who can say these lines the worst and believably as being a bad porn actor? And she did it, and she's like, well, Julianne Moore wins.
How long has it been since you've had a woman?
A long time.
That's terrible.
But now I'm back, and I'm ready to pursue my acting career.
Well, as you may or may not know, this is an important film for me. If it's not a hit, I'm going to get kicked out of my apartment. My landlord's a real jerk.
Really?
Why don't you take your pants off? It's important I get an idea of your size.
No problem.
I think that you have the job, but why don't I make sure of something? This is a giant cock.
Well,
And she's the best actor on all fronts.
Yeah, and it's funny. I'm going to make our second Singing in the Rain comparison because we talked about it takes a really good dancer to dance poorly, and it takes a really good actor to act poorly.
Yeah.
To say and that horrible porn dialogue is just, and the way that she says it is fantastic.
It's so good.
But the way that scene is shot is very sexy too. You go upside down and then you go into the camera. Like it's just so well done. It's sexy as hell without having seen much of it, or just seeing shades of the body or pieces of the body parts. You're like, oh, this is hot as hell. And when you juxtapose that with what you see later on when she's on the phone talking about her kid, when they're taking that's what you're talking about. It's so great to see her progression through the film as she becomes more and more desperate to be normal.
Okay, I want to go back. We've hired Eddie Adams. And now we're going to have our first big pool party, and we're going to meet the whole gang. And we've already talked about it a little bit, but the meeting between Mark Wahlberg and John C. Reilly over the margaritas.
Oh my God!
Hey, did you ever see that movie Star Wars?
Oh, about 4 times.
People tell me I look like Han Solo.
Really?
What do you bench?
Well, you tell first.
I asked you first.
Same time.
Cool.
Are you ready?
Ready?
1, 2, 3. You didn't say anything.
Oh, neither did you.
Some people say I look like Han Solo. So fantastic.
Well, and what's so funny is you see Mark Wahlberg kind of process that and just be like,
No, you don't.
and what's so great is that it's like, and now we're best. Did we just become best friends?
Yeah.
I mean, that's essentially what happened. And like doing the dives, and he does the
back. And how much do you bench? You first.
Yeah.
And like, you didn't say anything.
And it's all of these stupid high school, and it's like, oh, that's their level.
Yeah, but I've seen that on sets in regular shows.
Oh, sure.
In
Yeah.
regular films. That's just actors being actors, right? Two dude actors, like just trying to impress each other, who have emotional, like they don't have emotional maturity. So the way they talk, the way they connect is that way. He's not doing it in a negative way.
No,
he's doing it in a very
it's chest bumping.
Yeah,
it's trying.
exactly.
It's like two chickens sizing each other up. Yeah, it's great.
It's a great two chickens sizing each other up. I think that is. I will never see this movie and not be thinking about.
That's totally what it is, though.
That's hilarious. Let's talk about Bill Macy.
Oh my god.
So powerful, and so once again, this is Bill Macy in the late to mid '90s, building his resume as an actor. I think Fargo is just around the corner, if not, it just happened.
Just happened.
Yeah,
Just happened, right? Yeah.
So here he is in this situation. The way his hair is done, like he's one of these guys that is not your typically attractive actor, like mainstream attractive actor. But when you see him in a film, you can't help but watch him. I mean, The Cooler is a fantastic film that nobody talks about.
I like that movie
Right.
a lot.
Such a great film, and he's leading that, and he's so powerful in that film. But because he's such a great talent, and he has this something about his face and his presence, his energy, this magnetic, you can't take your eyes off him. And he is pitiful throughout the film and heartbreaking. And when he makes his move of power, it is even sadder that he did it the way he did it.
He's the transition point in the film, I
Yes.
think, which is
No
also
question
the
about it.
80s. But
Absolutely.
like that moment is when the movie kind of starts to go
No
downhill.
question. I want to hold off on that for
Yeah.
a sec, just to keep on Bill Macy. So his situation is, he's the assistant director.
Yeah.
He's very hardworking. He comes home, and there's his wife having sex with another guy.
Who is actual porn star Nina Hartley.
Actual porn star Nina Hartley, who was apparently a big help to PTA.
And still doing porn.
Yep.
In 2016.
Is she really? Wow.
Oh, yes. She still teaches.
Steve knows what he's doing tonight.
Sorry, Google. Then we see later on at the big pool party, he walks around, strange crowd of guys, and then there's his wife again having sex with another guy, what's so bizarre about this world is he goes, "That's my wife," and everyone's like, "Whatever." I mean, can you imagine you're at a party?
Oh my
and there's
God.
people openly having sex, and then someone comes up upset, and that's their wife.
Well, and also like her mentality of what she's doing to him.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep fucking strangers on purpose in front of you, basically,
Yeah.
because I know that you're never gonna do anything about it.
She cuckolded him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he takes it.
But I think it's also a test. It's like, man up, be a man. I don't think she expected him what's to come.
Yeah,
is
he
going to
takes it a big
happen.
place.
But like, I think that there's probably a desire. What I saw is a desire in her for him to say no. Get off of her.
Yeah.
I want to have sex with her. That's my wife.
Yeah.
And instead, she gets something much worse.
Right.
Yeah, and even the scene where what's the actress who's the cameraman who's all sorts of Mammoth films?
Ricky Jay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's an actual magician.
Yeah, who's an
Yeah.
actual magician. So Ricky Jay is like talking to him about the next shoot with that going on in the background.
Little Bill. Hey, Kurt, how's it going? What's wrong with you? Oh, my fucking wife, man. She's down there, some idiot's dicking her. Everybody's standing around watching. It's a fucking embarrassment. Yeah, I know. Anyway, listen. For the shoot, I want to talk about the look. I want to see about getting this new zoom lens. Right.
Bill Macy has like one of the greatest internal sadnesses of any actor I've ever seen, where you see the pain and then you see him trying to cover it up, and he's still, submissive to Ricky Jay. Like, oh yeah, well, we're not. He starts talking about the movie.
Yeah, Ricky Jay's like, so what lens are we going to be doing? What lens are we going to? I mean, it's just the film we're talking about here.
No, hey, gotcha. You gotta go somewhere. So, hey, what the fuck? It's only the photography of the film we're talking about.
Are you giving me shit, Kurt?
No, hey, no way, Little Bill.
My fucking wife has an ass in her cock in the driveway, Kurt. All right? I'm sorry if my thoughts are not on the photography of the film we're shooting tomorrow. Okay?
Okay, no big deal. Sorry.
All right?
Gotcha.
It's just so.
Well,
damn painful.
the mistake there is, so he says, that's my wife. She's got an ass in her cock.
I know. Was that a mistake or is that?
It's a mistake. So it should be a cock in, cock in her ass. And
I thought that was just brilliant writing.
no, so he said cock in her ass for the first take and then said ass in her cock the next 5 takes. And Paul Thomas Anderson kept saying, no, you said it again. He's like, I did? Really? I said it again? Are you sure? And he's like, you did. And then he ended up using it. Because
it's
I
brilliant.
love it. I know.
Yeah. I just always assumed it was in the script because it's so great to have him say it wrong.
No, it was a mistake. And Bill Macy says that's a testament to PTA, to leave that in there is a mistake.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. Well, PTA is very smart in the editing room, you know, because in addition to having these wonderful tracking shots that look like no other filmmaker, I think they have there's a strange sort of floating quality to his Steadicam shots that I don't know what is giving it that in the way he moves around. It doesn't look like anybody else.
Well, there's also he holds on people for longer periods of time, periods of time when they're not talking, or he will do slight camera movements, like when Mark Wahlberg and Julianne Moore first meet. The camera slides over and just focuses on the two of them looking at each other when other people are talking. And it's a wonderful way to trick you into feeling the relationship that's building between those two characters.
Yeah, absolutely. Philip Seymour Hoffman.
This is my favorite performance of Philip Seymour Hoffman, personally.
Wow.
I will say.
That's a strong statement.
I mean,
there's a long list.
This is also, for me, what made me want to go into acting as well.
Wow.
So this movie has a couple different things in it that made me want to make films and also be an actor. I just saw someone playing a character so strong and so grounded and also being such a character that it's so believable for the first time, I think, in modern film for me, growing up. And I just loved how emotional and how vibrant this character was.
It's
sad.
And so fearless and open, you know?
Yeah.
Like there's no sense of him wanting to look good or taking care of himself. He is so happily, even when he's in the background, being this crazy, sad, deeply loving, wanting character, you know?
And every physical thing he does too. This is, I think, a masterclass also in physical acting. Like what he does with the pen when he's walking down the steps with Dirk Diggler the first time for his firstborn. You look really great with the pen in his mouth. And the way he holds his arms.
That's great.
Holds himself in and is covering himself up. I mean, I read also that his wardrobe, they wanted him to be in the same clothing that he was in as a child. Like that he never changed his clothing from when he was a little boy. So everything still doesn't really quite fit him well, and he's just a little awkward still and still trying to find a family, much like everybody else is trying to find a family in this movie.
Well, if I remember correctly from what I read, he wanted Wahlberg sizes. He wanted to wear Wahlberg sizes. But
it sure looks that way.
But the clothes had to look childish and had to look like he was in that state of regression. Like he never matured as an adult. Like he was, to him, it's no different than a fan who just wants to be you all the time. Like people have these fans who come in, like they dress like them, they act like them, they do the kinds of things, you know, and they take it to that extra level where they actually think they can be that other person.
Well, and it is very clear, very early, that he is in love with Dirk Diggler.
Absolutely,
from the opening shot, when the pinhole when it goes around Dirk, and you see him sitting on the chair, and Phil Seymour Hoffman kind of does that like hair flip sideways smile, and you're like, oh, this is. I mean, it's another very clear showing of what this character is from the very first second you meet them.
Yep,
you know their wants, you know their intentions, you know everything about them.
Yeah, absolutely. And he is another brother in the family, or maybe he's like the nephew,
right,
or the cousin. But like this, just continuing this family metaphor. And we're sort of building up this group of people. Let's get to the. We talked about it a little bit before. Let's get to this first sex scene, because this is the test. This is like if this was a boxing movie, this is the first fight. If this is a musician movie, this is the first concert. You know, this is the first big test, and there's a lot of tension put around it, and there's a lot of build up to it. And then what I love about the way, and we see all the family members kind of making this thing happen. And one of the things I love about the way that we see it is it's really about the reaction shots. When they start when he starts having sex with Julianne Moore, it's really going, like Bill Macy's reaction shot is amazing, because in it you see all of his feelings of inadequacy, you know?
Yeah.
You see all of that, like, you know, because we already learned about his wife and what's going on with her, and you see all of that. You see Burt Reynolds as the artist filmmaker going, again, I got something special.
Even I think the character's name is Rocky. You know, the second camera op.
Oh yeah,
who's smoking the cigarette. Like even his face is fantastic, because it's
just like holy shit.
It's like holy shit. I've been in this business a long time. I've never seen something that big. You know, it's great. Like and John C. Reilly and I forget her name, the other co-star, when they tilt their heads to the side to get a look at it.
Well, and I had to say, I know we're talking a lot about big cocks in discussing this film, but it seems as if the implication is there's also something special about Dirk.
Yes.
It's not just that. It's that there's something special about
his acting
as well. His acting that is making, because everyone is getting pulled in, you know, to this scene.
they get so lost in it they don't even realize that he comes inside of her.
Right.
Honestly,
Yes.
I mean, like, which is a big faux pas, you know, big no-no in this. And I
Really, for all actors.
For all actors, yes.
Yeah.
On the assistants in particular.
Yeah, we. I don't even know where to go with that.
Who am I?
Talking about porn. I mean,
look. If our discussion makes you want to watch The Assistants, it's available on iTunes. You could rent it right now. You could see exactly what we're talking about. The other thing that happens though, so the film reel runs out.
Yeah.
Yes,
and
which is great.
They just keep going.
Oh, such a great moment. Yeah,
and they're just quietly, well, let's just reload. And then the great moment where we realize that Dirk Diggler is a true star.
Yeah.
Is, do you want me to do it again?
Yeah, I can do it again right now, Jack.
I can do it again right now, Jack. And then and then we go into the montage.
Yeah.
We go straight into this perfect end because we're watching the sports hero movie. We're watching the rock star movie. Is that everything's going great.
Yeah.
Which I think something we haven't talked about too is the soundtrack to this movie is just insane. I mean, like from scene to scene, from all these montages, it's just perfection.
Yeah, the song, they hit at just the right moment. And there's obvious connections between Martin Scorsese and Paul Thomas Anderson, is that Paul Thomas Anderson plans ahead the way Scorsese does, the way Tarantino does, for certain songs in certain scenes and knows how he's going to drop the needle, how long it's going to play. He times them out. So he knows, okay, we're going to be out before the second chorus, on this song. It doesn't always go that way, but he really thinks through that in the script stage. We go to this great montage where we see he's winning all the awards, and it is treated just the way you would treat it if these were movie stars or sports stars or anything else.
I mean, when they're dancing in the club in
unison?
In unison
Oh,
is
yeah.
one of my favorite moments of the movie. Just perfect.
By the way, I found out, do you know who choreographed that?
Yes.
It's Adam Shankman.
Adam Shankman. I read that. I was like, what? I couldn't believe that. Yeah.
Yeah. Who's
way early on. Yeah.
Yeah. Big choreographer, director. So you think you can dance, all that stuff. That's who choreographed that.
Wow.
Yeah. And now we get into, I love, I want to go back to one moment. I love the moment, I think it's in the hot tub, where Eddie Adams comes up with the name.
Hang on. I got to go back just 1 second on that. The opening of the hot tub with John C. Reilly's poem. I love you, you love me, going down the sugar tree. That's my favorite. It's my favorite poem. We'll go down the sugar tree and there'll be some bees. It's one of my favorite moments of the whole movie. Yeah. And actually, it's from his mockumentary.
Oh, really?
I guess the guy who played the John C. Reilly character improvised that poem, and they ended up using it. And Dirk being like, that's really good. Did you write that yourself? And that, again, shows the earnestness and just the believability and like how much they love themselves as artists.
Yeah, yeah. And this goes to what? Like, we have this big build-up to Eddie Adams saying the name Dirk Diggler, and Burt Reynolds, and we even cut to this shot of Dirk Diggler in lights.
I just want a name. I want it so we can cut glass, like razor sharp.
Razor sharp, right?
Yeah, well, when I close my eyes, I see this thing. It's like this big sign. And the name is in like bright blue neon lights with like purple outline. And this name is just so bright and so sharp that the sign, it just blows up because the name is just so powerful. It says Dirk Diggler.
I think heaven has sent you here, Dirk Diggler. I think the angels have blessed us all because of you.
Dirk Diggler.
But it's immediate, his reaction to it. There's no thinking about it.
And what I can't tell, and this is what I was thinking, is like, does Burt Reynolds really believe these things? Like, how smart is Burt Reynolds? He's certainly smarter than they are. Mm-hmm. But it's like, is he going, yes, I think this name is great, or the Brock Lander, or whatever it is,
or is he just appeasing them?
Or is he just appeasing them?
I was actually wondering the same thing watching Jack in that moment, because he says it so fast.
Yeah.
And is he just saying it because he knows he's got a star in his hands and he's just going to say whatever he knows is going to be right to keep him going, or is he saying it because he actually believes it?
And it's hard to know. I mean, he does clearly believe in himself as an artist, as a filmmaker,
right. Mm-hmm.
but he also doesn't give a shit in certain ways that are interesting.
Or is that Burt Reynolds bleeding into
Right.
as an actor bleeding into what the fuck am I doing on this movie?
I don't know. But he's a fascinating character. Like, we can't quite figure out what he's thinking.
Yeah.
Can I bring up Don Cheadle? We haven't even talked about Don Cheadle.
Absolutely.
I got to talk because to me, he is my favorite part. He's my favorite character. I think that's what's so great about this film. As you watch it, yes, the main, but there's always someone that you can follow that you feel a certain connection to. And I felt such connection to him through the film. I mean, Cheadle's, once again, this is right when he's still building himself up as an actor. Hotel Rwanda is just around the corner. All these kinds of things are happening. And so he's doing this film here, and he's playing this guy who's ironically the black sheep of the family, literally and figuratively. Even in this family, he feels left out. He feels like he doesn't have, and he feels like at the party he's all sad, all dressed up with
he's trying to figure out his own style. He can't figure it out. He keeps changing from being a cowboy to.
Because he doesn't know who he knows he belongs somewhere. Right. He just doesn't know where. But the desire to belong is so powerful.
Well, he's a middle American. He wants to be a stereo salesman.
Yes.
That's where he belongs.
Yeah.
And it's interesting too. We don't ever see him being filmed in porn, right?
No.
Yeah, it's like he's sort of the least. It seems like he kind of fell into this as an actor. I mean.
He's the outside person all throughout the whole film,
right?
And I think, but he gets that moment. He gets his moment.
Without question,
in such a great way.
It's so interesting, actually. I kind of have never thought about that until we've talked about this. That like he is the one who gets really what he wants.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
The most out of anybody, I think, in the entire film.
Because he stays out of the pitfalls of what that life could be.
Right.
And in a way, he initially he feels left out, hurt, insecure, sad. But it ends up being a blessing when the thing happens in the long run, and he ends up becoming the stereo salesman.
I think part of it is that unlike anybody else, he actually has ambitions that are perfectly realistic and normal.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't go, I'm going to be a star, or he's not.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, I want to open up a stereo show. That's all I want to do. That's all I want. You know, and he wants to get married and have kids.
Yeah.
And he wants to live a perfectly normal life. And he's sitting there while that's what he clearly wants. He's throwing on all these outfits and things that don't really
trying
fit.
to match with the world that's around him. I think because this gaudy big world that's around him, when really he just wants to be normal.
He wants to be normal.
That's the thing. All these people in this film want to be seen as normal and accepted as normal, but they're doing something that's not normal. We would consider normal as a society.
Well, yes, it's the last thing you said that I think is the key, is that they are normal.
Yes, in their world, yes, in their minds, yeah.
Well, and it's our world that says that porn. Well, and this is I've thought about this a bunch, which is that I don't know how to explain this idea, but everybody has a set of traits, you know, that you have intelligence and you're good looking or you're strong or you're fast or whatever it is. And we value those on different levels. And we tend to value the sexual, like for instance, if I make a movie that makes you cry, you go, oh, wow,
he's a fantastic filmmaker.
Yes. Right. If I make a movie that makes you laugh, you go, oh, he's a good filmmaker. You don't put it at quite at the same level he makes you cry.
Right.
If I make a movie that thrills you or scares you, you know, he's a good filmmaker. If I make a movie that turns you on, then it's not so good.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's like, why do we put these on different sets of standards? And why do we go, and I know there are reasons for this, but
the Puritan time.
But yeah, I mean, is that we are very, as I said when I introduced the podcast, we are uncomfortable about sex.
Yes.
Okay? And so because we are, and yet even though the porn industry, particularly today, is a massive multi-billion-dollar industry, and what we can take from the evidence of its massive size is that
a lot of people watch it. Yeah.
Is that it's probably not everybody, but it's a whole bunch of people watching.
Right.
So you have a whole bunch of people appreciating a thing that a group of people are doing while simultaneously demeaning the work that they do. And that is weird.
And it's interesting, actually. I hadn't thought about this before this, but even Burt Reynolds and their characters are trying to make these porns not porns.
Right. That's
you know what I mean?
exactly
And
what
I hadn't
they're
thought about that. Like Ricky Jay, when he says, this is the best work we've ever done, Jack.
Yeah.
When they're making Chess Rockwell and Brock Landers, and they're deviating away from what it is that they're really trying to do, which is turn people on.
Right.
They're now trying to make James Bond of porn. They're trying to make it normal.
Yeah.
And it's kind of sad, actually, in a sense, that they're not just sticking to what they originally
but this
were
goes
doing.
into there's this moment where we have Dirk Diggler and they're in like a van and he says, I got this idea, and his idea, which is based on sort of a John Holmes series of films,
Right.
but is that we're going to do this James Bond of porn, and they get really excited and they have these big action sequences and car chases, and you know they're doing this big thing,
Gunfights, vests with no shirts on.
yeah. Oh, the late 70s are just awesome. And that actually does become really successful. And then what happens, I think, is that's when you went to see porn in a movie theater.
Right. As a community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And once porn becomes something that you watch at home, what happens to those sections in the movie?
Fast forward. Yeah.
There is no reason for them to
Right.
exist. They only exist when you're in the community in the movie theater.
Right.
So Burt Reynolds and our characters have gotten the illusion that people really like this. And what happens as we make the transition to videotape is to discover that's not what they liked you for.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, which is really sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he thinks he's a filmmaker.
Yes.
He doesn't think he's a porn filmmaker. He thinks he's a filmmaker. And there's a reverence to that
Right.
in his mind. Yeah.
Well, he is a filmmaker.
Right. Well, of course.
You
But
know
I'm
what I
saying, but most people look at people who do porn and be like, you're not Scorsese. You know, they don't consider the same level. No one's covering the AVN and going, what are you wearing on the red carpet? Like on E. You know what I'm saying?
They are covering
those
it,
are on Showtime
but
or Cinemax or some shit like that. But it's not going to be on regular network television.
Well,
That's
this
what
is
you
again,
see.
we've created a
It's the judgment.
barrier between this stuff and
Yes,
this
of
stuff.
course.
And
But
by the way, I was at CES. This is, you know, almost 20 years ago. It's actually right about when Boogie Nights came out.
Yeah.
And there was the porn convention at the same time, or the AVN or whatever.
Right.
And one of my boss was friends with someone who was working that convention rather than our convention. And we're sitting at a table and she said, "Oh yeah, I'm just desperate for writers. I really could use a writer. I need someone who can write like 1-page descriptions of a scenario and do like 5 or 6 a week, and we'll pay a few $1,000s for these things." And
I know what I'm doing now that Bones is over.
And I'm sitting at the table going, "Man, I could do that." And I had this moment where I was going, "Do I want to?" And I didn't. And I was like, "Man, I'd make myself a fake name and start writing porn scenarios and make some money." Because at the time I was doing DVD quality control,
Right?
You know, and you know, there are all sorts of real people who come out of film school and they end up in that world.
I think Bill Macy, who we haven't even talked about yet, but
Yeah.
he said that they visited porn sets, and he was like, we went on one, and it was a female director, and it was just the same as any other movie. She was trying to make her day. She was really stressed out, trying to get these shots off, and that was it. It was exactly the same
It's
type
still-
of set.
it's
How many setups?
People are fucking in the
Always
corner,
getting
you know, doggy style, but like she's trying to make her day.
It's
you know?
still filmmaking. You
Yeah.
still have a sound guy. You still have to deal with lighting. You still set exposure.
You still have diva actors. You still
exactly.
have shit like that. Yeah.
You're dealing with a different set of problems sometimes, but every movie set has a weird set of problems. And the one thing, and it should be obvious to anybody who's listened this far, but every single actor we've made, whatever the size of their part, can carry their own movie
Yes.
and does later. That's what's amazing.
That's a great point.
Oh, that just gave me goosebumps. I that's so incredible about
That's
this
a
film is
great
that
point.
every single one of them has had their own film, basically.
Absolutely. And most of them, many of them.
Yeah.
I mean, Don Cheadle, Julianne Moore, like on and on. All of these people are stars.
And won Oscars.
And several of them won Oscars. It's an unbelievable cast.
And I love Melora Hardin as
Yes.
as a partner to him because she's great in Magnolia as well.
Oh, yeah.
Her the way she plays destroyed innocence is fantastic, and in that when she's so supportive of him, so loving of him, you can't help but empathize with these people as a couple.
He also finds love.
Yes.
You know, which
Right.
I don't know that
And-
I can
yeah,
think of
that's a
anybody
good
else
point.
that really finds love
That's a
in the
very
movie in
good
the way
point.
that they
John
do.
C. Reilly and Mark Wahlberg find love.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
exactly.
bro love. Yeah,
They have true bromance.
Yeah.
But other than that, there's no real love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So everything's going great. We get to New Year's Eve 1980. And New Year's Eve 1980, the tone changes so clearly. Even before William H. Macy, even before that moment. The moment that, what's his name? The other porn producer,
Phil Baker Hall.
Phil Baker Hall.
Oh, yes, yeah.
The moment he walks in
Yes.
the door of the party,
With
the
these
tone
like kind of
changes.
80s looking
Yeah.
guys. These
Yeah.
are the new talent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It changes. And he comes in and says to Burt Reynolds, everything's going to be videotape. And we have this argument between them, and no, it's not going to go that way. And it's just like, and the other thing that happens at that party is Julianne Moore gets Mark Wahlberg to snort some cocaine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's that moment. This is the moment. And you know, like, things are going to go bad.
Yeah.
It's very, very clear.
Kids, don't do drugs. That's what we're saying.
Yeah. That's I think that's been the
That's
message
the moral of this
podcast
and
the whole time.
podcast.
Yeah. And our
On
next
New Year's Eve in 1970.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, join us for our next episode, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. And then we get to William H. Macy. And this shot is
Another fantastic tracking shot. I
I
mean, like,
great tracking shot. And the shot is he is walking through the party, he goes to the back room, he opens up the door of some room.
someone offers him champagne.
Someone offers him champagne.
It's like a normal party. Come on,
Yeah.
we're doing the countdown. Come out with us.
And he opens the door, and there we don't see, but here his wife is once again having sex. We can tell by her face. And something that PTA said is that he was doing early screening, and in an early screening when that happened, I think it was at a college, everyone started laughing at that moment. And he went, oh no, I've done it wrong. I've ruined the movie. It's not going to work. And what I think is that is the right, I think that moment is funny. I think that moment, because you've laughed with Bill Macy multiple times already, you've set up a funny scenario. And what's so powerful about it is then he walks back to the car.
Yeah.
And it takes a long time. Gets out to the car, reaches into the car, and pulls out a gun.
Yeah.
And then locks the car.
Yes.
Again, puts his champagne back on the top of it, which I love that he locks the car.
Yeah.
As if because he's going to continue with someone's going to steal something from his car.
That's what he's worried about.
Yeah,
That's what he's
right. That's what he's worried about.
But people are like that. I mean,
Right.
we do our normal stuff.
Yeah.
Here's a horrible story. My mom will be angry at me for telling this. So my dad wakes up in the middle of the night, this is 30 years ago or something, and says, Sue, I am having chest pains. And my mom goes, oh, okay. He says, I think we should go to the hospital. Mom goes, okay, let's go downstairs. He goes, he's already gotten dressed. My dad was very efficient and organized. Yeah. He goes, okay, I'm going down to the car. My mom goes down to the car. On her way to the car, she grabs the garbage and throws it in and takes it out because it's Tuesday.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, my dad was perfectly. He had like
fantastic.
angina or something. I mean, he was fine.
Fantastic.
But yeah, it was Tuesday.
Yeah.
I mean, we do that thing. We do the normal stuff. So anyway, he walks.
Might not make it back from the hospital for me to throw the trash out in time, so I'm going to throw it out.
We got a lot of trash.
It's like
this
it
week.
didn't take me an extra time.
Yeah.
It was on the way.
I love that.
So he walks back, and now we're back to, and again, these moments are funny, you know. And as he's walking back, it becomes so scary. We follow him back. He opens the door very calmly, fires 2 shots, walks outside, looks at camera, smiles.
Yes.
Oh my God.
And that smile is so filled with something.
Yeah.
Filled with despair and anger and fuck you and look at me now and now I've got
Who's
your
won?
attention.
Who's won?
Who won?
Yeah.
And he puts the gun in his mouth. No, he just aims at his face.
No, I think it's his mouth.
Yeah.
Isn't
His
it?
mouth?
And then it blows out the back of his head.
It's amazing. And the movie has changed.
Yeah.
Yep.
We are now in the movie will never be the same after this
And
moment.
I think it's important to note too, like about this film, is it is funny.
Oh yeah.
And it's for all intents and purposes, the first third of it is to me is a comedy.
Yeah.
Sort of. And this is where it really completely changes and
Yeah.
delves into a whole nother world.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so funny. It's funny. It's so shocking to me. Now I can't remember. What do we come back to right after that? What's the next sequence? It's you see what I mean? It kind of erases the movie.
I know.
Which is why the laughing works. The fact that people laughed at that moment, thinking we laughed with William Macy throughout the film, it makes it work that we laugh at that moment because when he goes and gets the gun, the reaction by the audience, the viewer, is like, "Holy shit!" Yeah,
Right.
we thought we were gonna keep going down this like feel good path or a fun path, and then he pulls the gun and kills his wife. And you're like, "Oh fuck, where do we go now?" You know what I'm saying? It's great in terms of pacing as a viewer watching a film. It takes you to a whole nother place.
What I do remember, like technically about the film after this point, is that the camera work changes.
Yeah.
Like drastically. It becomes this fast moving stuff.
Just
Zoom
like the
in.
80s. Yeah.
Yeah, the 80s, exactly.
Cocaine.
No more tracking, no more long, slow tracking shots of meeting people. It's this fast, frenetic filmmaking after this. The other scene that we skipped over that I have to just mention is Phil Seymour Hoffman when he buys the car that's like the D version of Dirk's car.
Yeah.
And tries to kiss him.
Yes.
And I'm just really drunk. It's such a devastating scene.
Oh yeah.
But I think it also foreshadows what's going to happen with Wahlberg later.
And that's
because Wahlberg in that moment as a character is in power.
Right.
But Wahlberg later is Philip Seymour Hoffman in that truck jacking off.
That's true.
There's no difference in status between those two guys at that moment.
It also foreshadows what's about to happen because that is on the verge of the 80s New Year's Eve as well. That's before Bill.
Right before Bill.
So that's kind of like the prequel to like what the downfall of everybody.
Oh yeah. And it's so and his reaction after Wahlberg leaves.
Oh,
Fucking idiot.
Yes.
He's singing in the car. Yeah.
It's so painful and such good acting. But we also see that the cocaine and the partying has turned a corner.
Yeah.
Like we've gone from, hey, and just like, you know, a lot of movies, and it's like, it's really fun when it starts, and now it starts to get bad. And we have this great sequence where before he was, hey, Jack, I can go again right now. And now he's trying to get ready for a shoot. And there's a young guy who he feels like is going to replace him. And he comes out and says, I'm ready. And they say 20 minutes.
Jack. Yeah. I'm ready to shoot.
20 minutes, huh?
No, I'm ready now. It's got to be now.
20 minutes, babe.
Fuck it. Hey. No. Hey, Jack.
I'm ready to shoot now. My cock is ready. I want to fuck. Let's go.
20 minutes.
And he and Jack have a fight. And it's really hard to watch.
Yeah.
I'm not going to shoot you in the state you're in.
What do you mean state? State of California? I know where the fuck I am, Jack.
Jesus Christ, you've been up for 2 days.
No, I haven't been up for 2 days.
Nevertheless, you look like you haven't been to sleep. So I ain't going to shoot you this way because you don't look good.
You know what? You don't tell me anything, okay?
Really?
You're not the boss of me.
Yes, I am.
Oh, you the king, huh? Yes! Hey, don't fucking touch me, man! No. You shut up, too! You're not the mother of me, and you're not my boss. You're not my mother. You're not my fucking mom.
Hey, man.
No. I'll take you home. No. I'm ready to shoot the scene. I want to shoot the scene. I'm fine.
I want you out of here.
Look, it's over, okay? I'm done.
Listen,
I'm ready to shoot.
Kid, I want you.
Don't you fucking call me a kid. What? I'll fuck up. You want to see me kick some ass? I know fucking karate. You want to fuck me?
Get out. Come on. You are fired. You're fired. You
And a little side note from what I read on Grant, you probably read this on Grantland as well, but like, apparently PTA and Burt Reynolds had gotten into a very big fight the day before shooting this.
Oh, really?
And Burt Reynolds had swung a punch at him.
Wow.
And then
I would think he hits hard.
I would think he does.
Yeah.
And then the next day there's this pent up big fight, which I think is like beautiful from Burt Reynolds. The way he holds back and the way he doesn't want to get mad at Dirk right away. He's really like, baby, 20 minutes, baby. It's 20 minutes. And then it builds and builds to him, get the fuck out of my house.
Yep.
Right.
You know, and it's wonderfully done.
Well, because he welcomed him into his house.
Right.
He gave him everything that he has. He's treated him with nothing but respect and kindness and generosity. And now this guy's acting like a dick.
But I also think too, Burt Reynolds, like the character, he knows, he remembers being Dirk, like that.
Right.
That as men, we watched a 20. Like I'm 46. I could watch a 20-year-old go, and I go, dude, just trust me. This is not as big as you're making it seem. Like, you just calm down. You'll realize later, right? And I think that's what he's doing in that moment. He's like, "It's 20 minutes. Just relax. I know what you. I know exactly what you're feeling. Let me tell you this, so you can calm down. Blah blah blah." But it's not working. And I think it's not working because, and this is great. It's really well done for the characters because Wahlberg does want to like feel himself. He wants to feel himself a little more. He wants to, no different than like you say. He's the dad. The kids. Sons fight with their dads all the time to state their independence because it's like, no, I need to be my own man and do my own thing, blah, 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 even though you're still taking care of me. I want to do my own thing. And that's what, it's very similar to me. What that happens.
There's a certain point where dad has to say, get the fuck out.
Yeah, exactly. You really think you can do it? Then get the fuck out of the house.
Yeah. Yeah, you want to do it on your... And then we go to that they're going to be rock and roll stars.
Yes.
It is...
Some of the worst music ever.
And as you said, this is the composer of the film that's playing the engineer.
Right.
And what PTA said to Riley is just see if you can make him lose his cool. Just try to torture the composer.
Oh, no way.
Oh, yes.
Oh, that's great.
So, and you can see it. It's so painful to watch.
Do you think that my voice is getting drowned out by the bass? Not really. Turn it up. Turn it down. He's so good.
It's so awful. And you see things going on. Oh, and we didn't say we get introduced to another character, which is Thomas Jane.
Oh my God. Who has also made his career. And he's been vocal about that too. Like, this movie completely changed my life.
Yeah. Well, his performance is so bizarre. And it's funny, having listened to a lot of people who got into Coke talk about this, is there's this guy. They talk about, well, you start hanging out with a guy, and it's the guy that can get the Coke, and that guy takes you to weird and creepy places. It's certainly Thomas Jane does that.
Oh yeah,
he's a very, very peculiar character.
Well, and then there's a scene with them all doing a ton of blow from underneath, on the coffee table, and cameras are changing completely. Their lives are changing. They're trying to find another plan of what to do, how to make money and how to get ahead.
Right.
One scene I want to talk about, which we skipped, Julianne Moore and Heather Graham doing drugs together.
Oh, yeah.
Where Heather Graham asked her to be her mom.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love you, Mom. I want you to be my mom, Amber. Are you my mom? I'll ask you if you're my mom, okay? And you say yes, okay? Are you my mom? Yes, honey. Yes.
That scene, and then Julianne's completely coked out intensity. I mean, that scene is...
Do you want to go for a walk? I don't want to leave this room. Neither do I. Neither do I.
I don't want to do this anymore, honey. I can't. Let's have fun now. Let's just go and go and go. It's over. There's too many things. Too many things. Too many things. Too many things. Okay, let's go walk. I don't want to leave this room. Me either. I love you, honey. I love you, Mom.
It's so sweet and so funny and so insane. That scene is amazing.
It's a lost mom and a lost daughter. That's what
Absolutely.
it is. Trying to find the connection. Once again, you talk about family.
Yeah.
And this brings us to our sort of next turn, our next emotional turn, which is first we have Julianne Moore in the custody trial.
Oh, man.
It is, and here's the thing about that trial. It's a hearing to decide whether or not she should have custody of her kid. And part of me watches, and I love Julianne Moore, and I know that this character in this film is a loving person.
Right.
And I'm kind of with the judge.
Yeah.
You know?
And then her ex-husband.
And her ex-husband.
That is actually probably one of the only characters on the outside that you are a little bit with. Because, I mean, the devastating moment earlier on when her...
kid calls.
Is it daughter or son?
I don't remember.
I think it's a daughter.
It's a daughter calls, and Luis Guzman's walking around saying, "Does anybody know a Molly?" And she's not there to answer her daughter's phone call.
Well, she is there.
She's there. I'm sorry, but
that's what makes it so sad.
Yeah,
she's
exactly.
over there.
She's over there, but she doesn't
know.
Doesn't know.
And it's like, you don't get to be the mom of this kid,
right?
And again, you get Julianne Moore's just stellar acting, crying outside the courthouse. It's just brutal. Oh, and the other turn, of course, is what happens to the Colonel. Now, we haven't talked about him.
Oh, man, the Colonel.
The Colonel is also another stellar performance. He played Jack in the original
Diggler.
short.
Oh, how funny.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's acted in like Mel Brooks movies and all sorts of things. And so there was this sort of, can he do this?
Right.
Kind of a character. And of course, he's great. And man, so he's a character. We see him once at the very first party. He brings in what seems like a very young girl who does too much coke.
Yeah.
We see him at another thing with a very young girl. And then it ends up that a very young girl who's ended up being 15, doing a lot of coke, dies at his house. And now he's in jail. And we have Jack come to visit him in jail in this interview.
Through the glass,
talking on the phones.
And the devastating moment of him saying, "You're my friend, right, Jack?
Yeah.
You're my friend." And then the phone gets cut.
Yeah.
Their time is up, and you just see him mouthing through the glass, right. "You're my friend, right? You're my friend."
Oh, God.
And Jack, again, Burt Reynolds' performance in this moment of, I want to do the right thing for you, but you've gone to a place where maybe I'm not your friend.
Yeah.
You know? And I don't know what you do when a friend takes that kind of a turn. You know, like, it's rough.
Well, that's what's so ironic about the whole situation with Burt Reynolds, right? Burt is this through the whole film. Burt is the steadying influence the whole film. He does not have these like things like this because he's been through it all already. That character is what I mean.
Yeah.
And so he's trying to guide everyone to the right place. And you're right. He has that great moment where he's like, what am I going? But she was 15. You should have fucking known what you were doing. Just like you want to be a man, get the fuck out of the house. You want to do this. He takes care of the people who respect what he does and appreciates what he does for them, and he gives them patience. But then you go too far and take advantage of it.
There's a line.
He's not. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, and he has a strong moral center.
Yes, he does.
Now
exactly.
we might not, our society might not like where his moral center sits.
Right, exactly.
But he cares about his people. He believes in doing the right thing in a certain way, which brings us, of course, to In the Limousine, where he is now pouring his change. We're not making movies on film. We're on videotape. And he has, okay, we're going to go around and have ordinary people have sex with a porn star, just Rollergirl in the back.
And he's uncomfortable about it.
Yeah.
You can tell.
And he's also trying to sell it.
Yeah.
Like you see, and again, that's a layered performance.
It's also reality TV a little bit. There's mistakes in what he's saying. He's not as smooth as you see him throughout the rest of the film because he's on camera for the first time.
Right.
Hi, Jack Horner here. I'm in the back of this beautiful limousine in the back seat, riding along west on Sherman Way, and beside me is beautiful talent, gorgeous young actress from adult cinema, Rollergirl.
Hi. Hello. Howdy.
Are you ready to get on with this experiment?
Ready like Freddy.
And they invite a guy in, and we have to say this is intercut with Dirk in this other brutal scene where Dirk is now gotten to such a low point, which he gets low pretty quick.
Yeah.
He is back to selling glimpses or masturbating for people and maybe other things we don't know for money with some guy in a truck.
Yeah, and the soundtrack in this moment as well has changed completely. It's that slow, like drum beat, heartbeat of like impending doom coming, you know?
And it sure feels that way. And this guy comes in, and this sex scene is really with Rollergirl, and it's really uncomfortable. And again, Heather Graham's performance of trying to be the good porn actress when something really, really bad is now happening. And at this intercut with Dirk not able to perform the way he wants to perform, and we're back and forth, and this drone is happening, and it's getting more intense and more uncomfortable, and you have this impending sense of doom. And then finally Jack goes, no, we got to stop this. This isn't right. You're being too rough. Pulls the guy off, and the guy reveals he went to high school with her. And I always forget that that's the same guy doing the blowjob face.
He says, you don't remember me, do you? You know, and he says her name, which I think must be devastating to her. We talked about this earlier, to have her real name be out in the open when that's not who she associates herself with anymore.
Right.
That's
She's
not who she
Rollergirl.
is. She's Rollergirl. You know, those roller skates don't come off for a reason, because that's peeling away at what she really is, what she's no longer is. What she, you know.
And again, Jack, dad, protects his daughter by throwing him out of the limousine, and that's happening just as, and this moment is really weird, which is Dirk's in the car with this guy who's clearly turned on by what's happening, and then a pickup truck pulls up with two or three other guys, and at that moment the guy switches from being turned on to being angry and punches Dirk, and the other guys get out and they start beating him up.
Question: do you think that guy like intentionally went there early so he would have time with Dirk? I was always, this moment was always interesting to me, because
it's a really weird moment.
Because it is weird, because it's not like this guy just does it to beat him up because he's gay and he is obviously homophobic. The guy is turned on by Dirk, clearly, for sure, and has a moment with him that's what do we say, 5-10 minutes before the other pickup truck shows up,
something like that.
So there's something else that's obviously, this guy is fighting with his own sexuality, but there's something else going on.
It's
there.
an unknown, and I always kind of go like, well, what exactly was your plan? Because how did you time this truck pulling up?
Me too.
But clearly he switches as soon as that truck pulls out. He switches from being turned on to being, homophobe, and they start beating him up, and it's so, this is definitely a how the mighty have fallen moment. And while this getting beat up moment is happening, Burt gets out of the car and is beating up this kid.
Because the kid says, your films suck now.
He
says it to Dirk. He says it to Burt. He says it to Jack. Your films suck now. And that ticks him off. He jumps out, starts beating him up.
And then he restrains himself. It's like that stops. And then the next moment is, because it's so cold, Rollergirl roller skates up. What does she say? She says,
You don't ever disrespect me. Fucker! You don't ever disrespect me, you fucker!
And she starts kicking him with those roller
stomping
skates.
on his face.
On the steel, with the steel. Those skates,
And we don't get to see it, but and there's this moment of Jack and the other guys kind of standing back. Shocked. And also feeling somewhat, I think, the justification of what she's doing. And this is that thing that PTA talked about with Rollergirl, is this like this I'm okay, I don't care, girls, is that demon that's inside, and now it's come out. Like all the pain of everything else comes out. Finally they pull her off, and the beating stops on Dirk, and we're like, wow, this is the low point. I mean, this is, and then there's really fascinating filmmaking thing happening. Again, it's PTA being creative, which is, we see the limo go by in one shot, we follow it, a truck goes by, and then this Volvo station wagon goes up, and we go, what car is this?
It's funny, I had forgotten about this moment. I really forgot that he ties all three of these stories together in one shot. For some reason, it's just a moment that I'd forgotten, and it's beautiful.
Oh yeah. Well, and you're kind of, because you're so shocked by what you just dealt with, and you're like, what's this third car? And then you got Don Cheadle and his pregnant wife, and they're going over to get some donuts.
Donut shop.
And some Christmas donuts.
That's right. Christmas donuts. And it's this long shot that's naturalistically paid. Like that apple fritter. No, that other one. And
I even love when he's like, "Oh, is this for the Christmas?" Like, and the guy's like, "Yeah." He's, "Oh, that's cute. I'll take a couple of those." Like, it's so sweet and nice,
And you're reeling from what you've just experienced and confused by what.
And they're wearing all white.
Yeah. He's all white. And why are we here? And then in walks this guy with a gun, and immediately like this is not going well. Although it doesn't go where you expect, is that everybody in that room dies except Don Cheadle,
covered in blood,
covered completely in blood,
brain,
just the reaction.
Yeah.
It was so great by Cheadle, yeah.
It's fantastic. And then there's this slow look down at the ground, all the money out of the safe. That donut shop is done very well, by the way.
I know.
That is a successful, because there's got to be thousands of dollars in there.
Yeah, enough to open a nice stereo shop.
Yeah, and we know that Don Cheadle got turned down for a loan, and now it's like we see that look in his eye, and he grabs the money and walks out.
Yeah.
It's a complete, and PTA again is so good at doing this is an unexpected thing.
Yeah.
But also he does a great job through the whole film, setting up that moment so that we can accept him taking that money.
That moral choice.
Right, the moral
You're right,
choice.
exactly. You can accept it. You're not saying, oh, that's a horrible thing he did. You're like, you know what? He deserves that. That
Yes.
bank didn't give him the loan because he was in porn.
Right.
Unfairly. And now I'm on his side.
And he didn't kill any of these people.
He didn't kill anybody.
So, and this money's
I think
there?
we're 100% on his side.
Yeah.
It's like everybody in this room is dead.
Yeah.
He's had an experience that he will never, ever get past. I
Right.
mean, that's going to be there forever. He's covered in blood and maybe brains.
Yeah.
That's your money.
Possibly in his mouth, too.
Yeah. That's your money.
Yeah, that's your money.
That's your money. You earned that money. You can go.
Yeah.
And he got turned down for the loan.
Right.
You know, unfairly. Because
Yes.
my feeling is he's going to run a really good stereo store.
Yes.
I agree.
Yeah, he's going to be great. That bank should have given him the loan. That's his money.
Yep.
We've come to a long way down.
Yes, there's the credits that say that. Yeah.
Long way down, one last thing.
Yes.
It's interesting, that choice of a credit.
Yeah.
And we get to, we think we've hit a low point. We're going to go to, we haven't hit the full crazy low point that we're about to get to, which is, first of all, stay away from Todd. Todd is a bad influence on you.
Todd's a real bad influence.
He's not a good person.
No. But then again, what do you expect? He's the guy that gets all the blow.
He gets all the blow, and he says, I have a great plan.
Oh, my
Let's
God.
rip off a drug dealer.
Right.
Oh, my gosh.
And we go into a room and a performance that is so insane. Like, it feels insane when the camera moves into this space. Guys lighting off firecrackers, and you have Alfred Molina. This is my favorite Alfred Molina.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
It is so insane what he does with the character like Rahad Jackson, I think his name is. I don't even understand what's happening. He's in his underwear, in a robe, listening to music.
Sister Christian.
Christian, doing a lot of crack.
Yes.
Completely out of his gourd. There's a big guy with guns.
Yeah, the brother.
And they're in there like
The Filipino kid throwing firecrackers.
throwing the firecrackers. That is
Alfred Molina just wants to hang out.
Yeah.
he's so
He
nice.
just wants some friends. He's like, come on, stay. You want a little crack? Come on, just hang out. Like, for a moment, I'm kind of like, nah, guys, just hang out. Why don't we just skip the ripping them off thing and just have a nice time?
I know, right? Just say, you know what? We were going to rip you
We're
off.
going to rip you off, but we're going to stay.
You're so awesome. And then they go ahead, they pull out our bag full of baking soda or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And give it to him. And
Actually, Thomas Jane, brilliant. I love this moment where he's like, you can try it if you want. I mean, it's okay with me if you try it.
Yeah.
Like, he even tests it a little bit. He's like, you can try it. I mean, it's good. You can try it. And I'm like, that's ballsy. You have like a quarter or whatever it is. I don't know the lingo for that stuff. But you have that baking soda, and you're daring
enough,
this
we're doing
guy.
this podcast, but we know nothing about either drugs or porn.
Nothing.
Nothing at all. Sure. It's insane, and you see, like, as much as Thomas Jane is an idiot, he shouldn't be there. But John C. Riley and Wahlberg, it's just like, what the fuck?
Every
are we
time
doing
the
here?
firecracker goes off, they jump as if it's a gunshot.
Oh, what an interesting thing, by the way. Part of the reason that Alfred Molina is not jumping, because apparently they're quite loud, is he has an earpiece in, because he has to hear Sister Christian.
Right.
So he's not. It's not.
So he doesn't react to it.
Doesn't react to it, which is great for the film.
I also read that Paul Thomas Anderson was smacking 2x4s together.
Yes.
Oh,
in
really?
some takes, just read random moments,
Just to keep them.
just to
tense.
keep them jumping.
Well, this comes from what I've heard from the set of Alien, that Ridley Scott was firing starter pistols regularly just to keep everyone jumping.
Oh,
So I bet Paul Thomas
Had nothing to
Anderson-
do with the story.
No.
That's right.
It's such a great scene because it's
it's so good.
It's the ultimate in like your fear of ending up in a situation like that. Like I remember, and I will say this for the podcast, I had this really insane situation in my early 20s where I was dating this girl and we had to go get her brother out of this drug den. And it was behind a person's house in a shack, like in this pseudo kind of like play. And I was like, what am I doing? Like, why am I going on this? Like, I don't even remember this girl's name anymore. Like,
How did I make it to this point?
Yeah, how did I make it to this point, right? I'm a military. I was like 1 year, 2 years into the military, and here I am jumping over a wooden fence into this concrete by a pool and see this huge. And I'm walking with this girl. And I don't know where the fuck I'm going, and I go inside, and it is one of the most unsettling things you'll ever see. And then at one point, I lose her because she freaks out that she can't find him, and she's like running up and down these areas, and I'm like, I can't. And then finally, we run. And jump over there and get out of there and get him. And this is one of the most insane experiences of my life. And when I see that scene, all it does is trigger me every single time, because that's what it feels like, that fear of like impending doom, death.
And in this scene, the shot of Mark Wahlberg, when it just stays on him.
It's a fascinating shot.
And that to me is, I'm like, that's when Mark Wahlberg actually has become a fantastic actor at this point in this movie. Like where like it is all the wheels spinning through his head and just why am I here? How did I get to this point?
Spinning and getting nowhere.
Nowhere. Exactly.
Yeah, like
and he even like looks down and like shakes his head at one point, like I'm getting nowhere, you know?
Yeah. Like I don't know what to do. And they're still there. And then there's this moment where like, you've gotten away with it. It's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
You've got the money. The guy you say, hey, we're
all right, time to go.
Time to go. And then this is why you don't hang out with Todd, man.
Oh God.
Don't Todd like you see the twitching on Thomas Jane's face and the like his brain has gone round the bend.
Yeah.
And he goes, give me the money in the safe. And we end up in this crazy gunfight. It's insane.
And Thomas Jane even like he has this
With
weird
99
laugh.
yeah.
Do you remember when he's like he's this like weird long laugh. You're like, what is he laughing at?
No, that is the Crazy Town laugh.
Yeah, exactly.
I've seen that, by the way, a couple of times with people who had gone round the bend, essentially, and they started laughing.
Wow.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Crazy
and
Town
it's just
laugh.
like, it's like, no, dude, no, stop that. Really bad things happen next. Let's not go there. And it's like, I love that it's 99 Luft balloons.
Yeah.
That's playing. It's just a great choice. Run out of the place. Thomas Jane gets killed. Running down the street. I always feel bad. Like John C. Reilly, he doesn't even get in the car.
Right.
I know. He just runs into the bushes.
Yeah.
It's funny. He totally runs into, and you're like, what happened to him? And Mark Wahlberg just drives off.
Just drives off. So much for your bromance.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's typical Riley's character, though. He would do something stupid
Jumps
like
into
that.
the
He's not the
bushes.
smartest guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Apparently, I think they shot like a whole scene
Helicopters and
where
stuff.
the death
Yeah.
of
wow.
but they never shot, which is correct.
Wow.
Like one of the things that he said
You don't
about
need that.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think. I mean, I really don't.
One of the things he said about scenes that he cut, because the movie he really wanted was going to be 3 hours, was he was thinking about. He would go, oh, I'm in this scene. I can't wait because that scene's next. And then a scene would come up and would surprise him. And he went, oh, I completely forgot about that scene. That's why he cut it.
And in a sense, kind of the self-editing that he does in this movie is what makes it so good.
Yeah.
This movie shouldn't be NC-17.
No.
I don't think. Like any of the sex scenes, they don't need to be more graphic than they are.
Agreed.
Because otherwise, you don't need to see his cock either until the very end. Like it's not necessary for the film at all. And if it was there, I don't know that it would be as good of a movie.
I 100% agree. I think because the movie is about people.
Yeah.
As you said at the beginning, the porn is incidental.
Yeah.
You know, it's about this strange group of people and where their lives go.
Yeah.
And at this point, we have hit for Dirk Diggler rock bottom.
Yeah.
This is a clear rock bottom. And who does he turn to when he hits rock bottom? Is he goes back to Dad. He goes back to Jack. And I love that he comes in shattered and broken into Jack's house, and we're just in an over the shoulder. And I know this sounds strange, but there is such a thing as shoulder acting. I really think
backting.
so. Backting. Is that what it's called?
Acting,
Back
absolutely,
acting.
yeah.
It is for real. There, I mean, shoulders maybe not so much.
Yeah.
But hands definitely. It's like.
No, it actually really is true. I took a fantastic acting class, and it really on stage too, like showing your emotions in your back and inhabiting it in your full body is so important. I think on camera because you can forget just because the camera's over your back. Oh, I'm not in the scene. I'm not on camera. I'm not going to act. But like, it's so important for scenes like this.
Yeah. And the silent power of that shoulder in the foreground and the strength of him makes a huge difference. And then we kind of come full circle. We're in the 80s. Dirk, we assume, is cleaned up and he's going to go shoot some porn, and the family's going to come back together.
Yeah.
I actually think it's pretty remarkable how quickly Jack does open his arms to Dirk.
Yeah.
In watching it this time, I mean, Dirk comes in like, I need some help. I really need some help. And you think about someone coming back who's been a drug addict saying that, and it's like, okay, you need some help because you want to go buy some more Coke or whatever.
Right.
But Jack immediately embraces him.
And I think that speaks to Wahlberg's performance in that in that scene because he's very, like you said, earnest earlier about it. He's very earnest in that scene. You can tell he's broken and
He
he's
really needs it.
He's legitimately coming back saying, I get it. I realize what I did. Please help me. Like he just gets it.
Well, we hadn't seen, which maybe it happened, but we hadn't seen a drug addict movie where we didn't see constant abuse from Dirk to Jack go on. We only saw
True.
one falling out.
This is the only time he's come back and asked for help. It's not like the fifth time.
As far as we know.
Yeah.
Yeah, as far as we know. And the thing too is, it says this is what Jack's character is. Jack's a guy who is going to take care of his people.
Yep.
And in the end, we're really back with our family. And we see kind of where everyone's gone. We have Buck now has his stereo store, and again he's in kind of a new outfit and a new identity. And we got John C. Reilly. What's John C. Reilly doing?
Magician.
Okay, question about the magic scene,
Which I love, by the way.
It's awesome. Does she accidentally lose her top or on purpose lose her top?
It's funny because you do see her face where she's like, ah, and she runs off stage. I think it's on purpose. Personally.
I think it's on purpose because the way he reacts.
I think it's on purpose, and it's part of the performance.
Right. I can't tell. I was like going, wait, is it part of the? I don't know what it is.
I think it's part of the porn magic combination.
Right. That's what I
and
would
it's
say.
a new kind of magician, a porn magician.
A porn magician.
A porn
magician. Yeah. Also, what I'm going to be doing after Bones is over now.
Michael Grant Terry,
porn magician.
But I like how happy he is. I like how happy he is.
Yes.
Because Riley struggled. Riley is just his character through the whole film is he's like a notch above Philip Seymour Hoffman's character. He has just enough cool to be in the conversation, but he's still kind of a lost guy through the whole film. He's not a lead necessarily. He thinks he can be a lead. That's why he's lying to himself about the Han Solo thing.
Yeah.
But he's actually not. And so when you see how much joy he has doing the magician stuff, you're like, he's found his home.
He has actually. That's true. Like Buck, he's found what he wants to do.
Exactly.
Porn magician.
And he still has a little bit of the porn in there with the top coming down.
Exactly.
That's perfect for him.
And his moves, by the way, his dance moves in that. I was watching this when I just watched it for this, and I'm like, the choreography for that is beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's all one shot, and he does these beautiful movements around.
Yeah.
And that was practiced very well.
It's amazingly, perfectly, awkwardly cool.
Right,
Yes.
exactly.
You know what I mean? And that's not easy to do.
No.
And then we get our final scene, which is kind of almost a raging bullish monologue to
Yes.
himself in the mirror.
Yeah, totally.
Which is bizarre and strange and perfect and Dirk Diggler-ish.
Yeah.
Like within his construct of his world, this is awesome.
I am a star. I'm a star, I'm a star, I'm a star. I am a big, bright, shining star.
Does some karate moves.
And then we have our final shot of showing his finally seeing the big cock. And I have to tell you a story about this. So I actually never said how I saw the movie. It's not a very interesting story. I saw it in the theater. I loved it. But the interesting story is another person who saw the movie and called me up was my grandmother. My grandmother always went to see movies.
And she's calling in right now.
And she's calling in, sadly, from the grave. But she called me up and said, so I saw Boogie Nights. And I'm like, oh, okay. What'd you think of that? And I'm like, I didn't really want to talk to my grandmother about Boogie Nights. And she said, I swear to God, the first thing she said is, that's not real, right? And I went, what do you mean? And she said that at the end of the movie, with the penis, the long penis, that can't be real. It's like there's no penis. She was very insistent that no penis could be that long. And I was like, I can't really have this conversation with you. I'm really sorry. But I said, I believe that it is film magic, that is not actually Mark Wahlberg's penis.
Right.
And it's not.
Well, what's great in the Grantland thing is they talk about him going down and doing a cast of his cock.
Yeah.
Like
a cock cast.
Yeah, cock cast. Yeah, they went to this warehouse and they did the whole thing and put plaster on it, all the whole nine. It's fascinating how far they were willing to go with this thing.
And they talked about actually making it like way too big.
Yeah.
And they were like, that's like unbelievable and like almost alarming.
Right.
And they were like, we need to like pull it back a little bit. Like,
it has to be. They picked the right side.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and again, movie making is weird.
Yeah.
And like there are weird things that you do, and one weird thing is getting a cock cast.
Yeah.
And another weird thing is having a long, probably intellectual discussion about the exact length and girth of Dirk Diggler's.
Or possibly fast. This size. No, not that one. The other one.
Yeah.
Right.
And you're like, is it cold out? What's the situation? So Mike, what are your final thoughts on Boogie Nights?
I mean, I really do believe, after talking about this, that it is a film about family, and it is inspiring in a sense to be with a group of people who knows what they want to do and how to get there. And for me, it's one of the most influential movies for me as a creator and as an artist, because I think all of these performances are so well defined and so relatable in a sense, even though I don't work in the porn industry.
Yet.
They're relatable.
John, what are your final thoughts?
Yeah, Paul Thomas Anderson is one of my favorite directors, bar none. My Punch Drunk Love is sitting right there in Criterion, right on my desk. I mean, these are one of his films, There Will Be Blood. All these films that he does are so powerful. The master, that carry so much weight to them, no matter what topic he tackles, right? He finds what's really going on underneath. He finds the humanity and the ugliness as well, and then lets the characters play out in their decisions and their choices. And what you see in this film is was what I love about him. He does that. Yes, they do porn. Porn is irrelevant. It's about them they're lost. They're all lost, trying to figure out where they belong. And how many of us in this world have that journey in our lives as well? And that's what makes the film so relatable and so transcendent and multi-generational. You can show this 30 years from now. It'll still be effective. It'll still work, that what they're going through. And I love the journey of him realizing when he hits the top and then falling down and then realizing where he belongs. Like, he matures, he becomes an adult. That's what happens. You get cocky, you get knocked down, you figure it out, and if you have any brain in your head, you know where you belong and you go there. And I think that's what's so great about the film. It leaves you with that good feeling.
Can I say something too? I think that it's really interesting that this film starts a journey for Paul Thomas Anderson.
Yes,
into this type of thing of someone being lost and trying to find their way.
Yep.
In many other films, and it's what's so fascinating to me about him as a filmmaker, and that is fascinating to me as an actor too. That kind of character.
Yeah.
There's so many things to talk about with this film. I mean, obviously, this is at the very beginning of one of our great directors, and great unique directors. When you go to a Paul Thomas Anderson movie, it's going to be a journey, and it's going to take you emotionally a place that maybe you're not expecting. This is one of the great ensemble casts I've ever seen, and all of their performances. There's not a weak moment in the movie.
Agreed.
But the thing I keep coming back to is the lack of judgment. That frequently when we come into a film, we come in with, I know better. Whatever situation we look at, we come in with the position of, oh, I know what's wrong with these people. And that's not how this film is made. This film is made about a world that most of our quote unquote normal society has tremendous judgment about. And Paul Thomas Anderson's way of dealing with that world is entirely with love. Even some of these people, maybe they're not so smart. Some of these people make poor choices. Some of these people are a little bit crazy, but there's no sense of them being bad. It's always sensitive to them. It's always loving towards them. And that's a tremendous way to approach a film, and also a tremendous way for us to kind of think about the other people maybe we interact with in the world with. Maybe they're not that bright. Maybe they're making strange choices. Maybe they're dealing with drugs and problems, but we could still approach them without judgment and with some love. And it's a pretty remarkable film.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so that's how we feel about Boogie Nights. We would love to hear how you feel about Boogie Nights. Try to keep it clean, depending on the venue. You can visit us on Facebook. You could see us. It's at the Cine-Files. That's CINE-FILES. You can reach me at SR Morris on Twitter. John, where can they reach you?
You guys can always reach me at The Rocha Says, ROCHA. And also please leave comments on iTunes. Leave comments, please, we need those ratings. We need those iTunes comments. They help us move up. As Steve has been a champion for this for weeks, I will take up the mantle as well and say that too. These really help. If you're a Top 10 show fan and you've come over to become a Cine-Files fan, you remember how much those comments and those ratings helped us on iTunes. Please give us the same consideration.
And if you hear this and you go, oh, well, I already left them a 5-star comment. Well, first of all, thank you.
Yes.
But also, that's not all you can do, because you can tweet at iTunes or at iTunes Podcast. There's other shows like Pop Culture Happy Hour that I'm desperately trying to get them to make us one of their things that make you happy. So go contact them. There are other places. Start spreading the word. Tell your friends. Get on your own Twitter account because we need to get more listeners. Mike, where can they reach you if people want to reach you in the world?
The MGT on Instagram or LLMGT on Twitter.
LLMGT on Twitter. Great. It's been so nice having you on the show.
It's been awesome, guys.
Thank
you.
You,
a lot
Michael.
of fun.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So that's it for this week, and we will see you next time on the Cine-Files.